Hi, Soraya. How you doing today?
I am good. How about you?
I'm doing great. Looks like you're in a good mood today. Well, you usually
Well,
are.
look, I'm always in a good mood.
Yeah,
But
I was going to
it
say
is
that.
Saturday and it's still summer. And today's topic is a fun one. It's taken us a while to come back around to this topic. Why don't you let our listeners know what we're doing today?
Yeah, so today we're talking about the Bangles Different Light album. I'm holding up my CD copy, my nice price CD copy. So I think it was 3 or 4 weeks ago, we did our episode on Days of Wine and Roses.
Yes.
And we had realized that we hadn't spent a whole episode focusing on that. And then we did an episode on 16 Tambourines. And we did an episode on Emergency Third World Power Trip. So we figured it's time to do a Bangles focus, right?
Ooh.
So part of the series, right? So we got to come
Yes.
around. So we're going to talk about the Bangles Different Light.
And we also have a special guest joining us for this
Yes.
conversation.
Yes, we do. An expert, because Soraya, we are fans, but we're not experts.
You know, one could say that you and I don't know nothing about nothing.
But we have a good time knowing nothing.
But we have a good time and it comes from the heart. So,
Yes.
but today we're actually joined by Eric Shade, who is has a forthcoming book
Yes.
on the Bangles. And we just thought it'd be fun to bring him in to talk about Bangles, something he's super passionate about and knows quite a bit about.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so are you ready for some awesome music? Shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Hi, this is Soraya.
And this is Jeff,
Our podcast is called Paisley Stage Raspberry and Rhyme.
a podcast where the two of us play music that we like and share anecdotes and background about the tunes.
We hope you'll join our conversation. And without further ado, a grooviar.
Let's get groovy. I hear you, Eric.
Hey, very good.
Woo!
Hey,
How you doing?
nice to
How
see
you
the
doing?
both of you.
You
Well,
too.
we can't see you.
Oh no? Uh-oh.
No.
Hang on. Let me see. Yeah, let me start that up. Okay, there we go.
Yay!
Hey.
Hi!
Hey,
Good to see you.
great to see you. Well, virtually face to face.
Yes.
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 Well, Eric, we're very happy to have you on the show because I was just telling Soraya, I go, we're fans, but we're not experts by any means. So
Mm-mm.
a lot of times we're just rambling on about research that we've done. Most of it is crowdsourced resource. So you have had the pleasure of interviewing quite a bit of people that are directly involved with the band. So we're glad to have you on the show, Eric.
Well, thank you. And you do flatter me by saying I'm an expert. I'm just an Uber fan. Let's put it that way. And my research is a labor of love for folks like you and for all your watchers out there. Your webcast has provided me with information, and I hope I can give some back. So.
Oh yeah, I don't have any doubt about that, Eric. So
Thank
we were telling our listeners about your upcoming book.
Yes.
Do you want to tell our listeners about this book that you're putting together? And I think
Yes,
you're pretty
yes,
close to the
absolutely.
finish line here, right?
The writing is done, and now we're just waiting on the printers and the cover designer to finish up their work. And I'm hoping within the next month, 6 weeks, we should be in business. And so you're getting the exclusive here. It's called All Over the Place: The Rise of the Bangles out of the LA underground. And when I started writing this, I was happy when I hit 50,000 words. We ended up at over 180,000 words. So
Wow.
it just kept going and going. And the more people I talked to led down different avenues, and it just, honestly, I could have probably kept on going. But why didn't I? Well, I wanted to focus mostly on the pre-Fame days, before Manic Monday hit. I do venture into that and going up to recent times, but I wanted to focus mostly on those early days that where most people don't really know the ins and outs, the who's and what fors and wheres and whys, and that's what I wanted to mostly focus on.
Nice.
So with that mostly accomplished, I wanted to tie up all those loose ends. So
that's pretty cool.
I think I accomplished my goal. I hope so anyway. We'll find out in a few weeks.
well, that's, first of all, I think it's really good that people, not so many fans are really interested in this early history, and that you took your time and sought out, a way to kind of give fans that history.
Yes.
In a very tangible form. And one of the things that Jeff and I talk about a lot while doing this podcast is, we started and we said, it'll probably be just us and a couple of our friends listening. And what we found out is there's this really large community of people who love music and really enjoy the scene. And so I think your book is going to help, especially a lot of us that are fans of this scene, to know just a story that maybe has been talked about, or, like we hear little snippets. And yes, I'm really looking forward to having your book in my hands. And as Eric noted, while the book deals with Bangles before Manic Monday, we're now dealing with an album that has Manic Monday. So I don't know, maybe we should jump in.
Yeah, let's do that. And Eric, we would love to have you back when the book comes out in 6 weeks, 2 months. We'd love to dig in deeper to that. But yeah, so today's topic, we did want to focus on this album, Different Light. We picked out a few songs from it, Soraya. We each picked a song from each side.
Wow, and this time we've got both sides represented. That's good.
We did, yes. And then I picked 2 songs that had the same songwriting team and the same singer. And
I picked completely different ones.
You did. And you picked 2 of the 4 tracks, I believe, that were outside writers. So both of yours had outside writers, I think. Anyways.
At least one. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So Eric, is there anything that you know? I know you were talking about pre-Manic Monday. Is there any general information you know about the album that you can share with our listeners?
Yes. Where do I begin? I do venture into the recording of Different Light pretty much, because it really highlighted the problems and the stresses that Fame was giving the Bangles at that time, with the recording and what happened subsequently when the big time hit. So I really wanted to put that on display.
Okay.
I actually, the book starts with the wonderful quote that Debbie gives, where from 1986, after Different Light has been released, where she says, it's great to be famous. I'm surmising here, but it's great to be famous, but I missed the clubs. And I think that just sums up the whole feeling of my work that I was really shooting for. I don't want to sound like it's a downer, like success was a terrible thing for them. Right. But you sometimes you get what you ask for, and take everything with a grain of salt. Let's put it that way. So,
well, I think we really can't argue the fact that Different Light shows the band moving in a different direction. We have the inclusion of Michael Steele. Annette is not in this lineup, and this is where we start to see this kind of this rise, this commercial rise of the band, out of the clubs and moving into a completely different arena. It's a different sound.
Oh yes.
There are pieces. There are songs on this album that remind me of Bangles pre-Different Light, and then we just start to hear this very different sound beginning to develop. some interesting, Jeff is really, really big fan of track listings and where things are placed. And I think this is a really uniquely ordered listing. Wouldn't you say, Jeff? This one's a little different.
Absolutely, yeah. And the production is so much different. I mean, with All Over the Place, you had Hero Takes a Fall and Going Down to Liverpool, making it onto MTV or 120 Minutes or whatever. But when Manic Monday hits and you got Walk Like an Egyptian, it's just, they just soar, right? I mean, popularity becomes just, I mean, it's just so much greater with this album. And the production to me is just at a totally different level too. For my personal taste, not necessarily a good thing production wise, but I mean, the production is just so much cleaner, so much brighter, so much more commercial than you would hear with the earlier stuff. So yeah, absolutely, Soraya.
Just different. Just
yeah.
different.
So Eric,
yes. In my interviews, I spoke to people like Mike Gormley, who was their manager at LAPD, along with Miles Copeland. And he told me that after All Over the Place really caught on with the college crowd and the radio on, the West Coast, he approached the executives at Columbia Records on the East Coast saying, hey, we're going to start gearing up for their follow-up. And he discovered that they considered the Bangles just that little girl group from LA. They gave them no respect whatsoever. And he fought hard to give them their due.
wow.
That this is a group of talent. This is a group that should be noticed. And they're not a fluff piece. And when they played in New York with all the executives there, they finally took notice and they pushed for their follow-up, Different Light, very hard. And that also related to how it was produced, because David Kahn not only was their producer, but he was also an A&R man. So he had the directive from the uppity uppers that hey, we're going to make this a hit and we're going to push it hard and we want you to deliver. So that sometimes led to friction, especially with Debbie, as the stories all are famous now, the friction between Debbie and David Kahn. But he did exactly what he was supposed to do. He launched them into superstardom, and I don't know if another All Over the Place Part 2 would have done that. So
probably not.
No.
Probably not. Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that part of the story. That's really interesting. So a question about the release so as you mentioned, Different Light comes out on Columbia. And the date on the back is 1985. I've heard read conflicting dates. So was this actually released in 1985 or
Yes.
January 86? I've heard January 86 as well.
It was the last few days of 85.
Okay.
It leaked out in a few limited, I wouldn't say leaked out, but it had a 2 stations and reviewers and stuff. It officially came out in January to the public at large, but it was already starting to circulate in December of 85. Yes.
Okay, that clears it up. I'm glad you're here. You are the expert.
Thank you.
Because I had seen conflicting things. So Soraya, let's get into some of the songs, right? So
yes.
Speaking about leaking, we told a couple of our close friends what songs we picked, and we got a little bit of guff for not picking Manic Monday, didn't we?
Yes.
Yes, we did.
Yes.
So if you want to hear Manic Monday, turn on your radio to an oldies station. You'll hear Manic Monday, which is a great song. It's an absolutely amazing song, as we know, written by Prince or Christopher, as the credit
There
is
you
given
go, Christopher.
And then the second song from side one is the title track, or a version of the title track, In a Different Light. And then we get into your first song, don't we?
Yeah. So my first pick is Walking Down Your Street. And I picked this one because it had a unique writing team. So we've got the lyrics are credited to Susanna Hoffs, Luis Gutierrez, which fans may remember from 3 o'clock, and David, do you say Kahn? Kahn, thank you. Here's the thing. This is a song that reminds me of, an earlier version of the Bangles. But I love Susanna's voice on this song. And it's such a catchy tune. Like this song, I feel like it's plucked out of the 60s and put into the 80s. And it's still, to me, it's still very real. I like it. It's still a really good song, written very well. And I mean, I gotta love the fact that Luis Gutierrez is, one of our friends of the show, and it's someone that we appreciate. I love his musicianship on this song. So Walking Down Your Street.
Eric, is there anything that you want to talk about this song, or should we play it first and talk later?
Well, if you want to get into a little bit of the writing,
yes,
as you said about David Kahn having a credit on it. Now that's an interesting point. He has a few credits on several songs on Different Light, but were they deserved? That's up for debate. Even Miles, your
opinion?
Yes. Well, even Miles Copeland took issue with that, because what would happen during the sessions is that the ladies would come in with their ideas, and he would say, well, maybe the bridge needs some tinkering, or you might want to rewrite that section. And he would offer up his ideas. They would come back saying, hey, this is how we're going to fix it. And he's like, nah, I don't like that. We're going to do it my way.
Wow.
Which sounds harsh.
It does sound harsh.
It sounds very harsh, but as I said earlier, he did make these songs into big hits.
That's undeniable too, right?
Yes.
I mean, we can't even argue that fact.
His approach may be lacking, but you can't argue the results.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
So for doing things like that, he got his credits. Some say that he wanted a piece of the copyright pie. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So Soraya, you ready to listen to it then?
Hell yeah! Walking Down Your Street.
Toss and turn, wake up, burning forward.
You like that one, Soraya?
Man, those harmonies, they're just, oh, it just takes you. It just makes you happy. I love hearing them sing together. The harmonies from the beginning have been something that I don't know. Just these voices come together and it's beautiful music no matter what. Really catchy tune. And there's, now that I'm listening one more time, I'm like, ooh, that guitar part, I really like that. Oh, I like that too. I don't know. To me, yes. Okay, I didn't pick Manic Monday, but there's so many great songs on this album. So, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Susanna said that she was going for a Supreme's Shangri-La's vocal on that one.
Wow.
There you go.
Of course,
And
you always get the great harmonies with the Bangles. That's one thing you can count on. Yes.
Yeah.
That was of the small batch of songs that they did have before they went into the studio to record Different Light. That was the most recent, and that one was already almost a year old. She wrote that. Yeah, she wrote that with Greg the previous spring, about the time when they were recording the Goonie soundtrack.
Oh, nice.
Yes. Nice. And it was called Desire at the time. That was the working title. And when they went to the studio, it was one of the first songs they tried to tackle. And originally, before Manic Monday showed up, that was slated to be the first single.
Oh,
you're welcome. You're welcome.
Yes, fans of the Bangles and Paisley Under. That's why we have Eric here.
Yes. Oh my gosh, these are amazing details.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, Eric, there's also a recorded version by Lewis and Clark, Louis Gutierrez band. So, was this version actually recorded prior to that one?
This was, yes. The Bangles version came out first, and the Lewis and Clark came out, it wasn't terribly long after the single, Walking Down Your Street, the Bangles single came out, maybe 3-4 months later.
Okay.
And the Lewis and Clark is probably a little more faithful to how it was originally envisioned when they wrote it. It's a little more bass driven. It's a little heavier. It lacks those great harmonies, but it's probably a little closer to the mark of what was originally in mind when it was composed.
Interesting.
And there's also a 12-inch single of that Lewis and Clark track. If you can find it, hey, hard to find. I've been looking for years. So there's a remix of that. So
wow.
Yeah.
Soraya, I need to go looking.
I think we both do, and I'm nowhere near a completist, but now I really want this.
And if Eric's been looking for years and hasn't found it, I'm just gonna get in line.
Yeah, I think we're just gonna go right behind Eric. That's it.
So Eric, you mentioned it being a single. This album had 5 singles, right? So Manic Monday, Walking Down Your Street, Walk Like an Egyptian, we know, If She Knew What She Wants, and I believe in the UK they released Following.
Right. It actually, only in the UK, it did even chart in, I think it was Ireland.
Wow.
But we didn't get it here, unfortunately. No.
More importantly, do you have it?
Yes. I have 3 different versions of it. I have the 12-inch, the standard, and I also have the special edition that came with a set of buttons. So
oh wow. Yeah,
the sleeve folds out into a little mini poster. So it's pretty cool. They always get the good stuff over in the UK. Yeah. when it came to singles, they always went all out.
Yeah. That is really cool to know. Yeah. Okay, Jeff, we got ground to cover now.
Yeah.
Eric set the bar super high.
Yeah, I don't have anything from the UK whatsoever. All right, so we go from Walking Down Your Street to Walk Like an Egyptian right afterwards, 2 walking songs back to back. And as we know, Walk Like an Egyptian became huge. Again, it was another outside writer. I think they were listening to tapes that were provided to them. Is that right? For Walk Like an Egyptian?
Yes, when they came up short with compositions because they were on the road so long. They just didn't really have time. They were pulling in ideas from old songs they had written years and years before, which we'll get to. And David Kahn was also, because he's of his ties with various composition copyright organizations, he would bring in demo tapes all the time and say, this one sounds like a hit, you want to give this one a shot, so yeah, they were bombarded with ideas. With that, yes.
Wow. So they went with it, and obviously it was a huge hit, and it was the right decision for them to make because that just blew up. Then we go to Standing in the Hallway, which with a Debbie Susanna song, and credit David Kahn sneaks in here too and gets a little bit of credit for lyrics. And then we come to my song. So the last song on side one is Return Post, little bluesy song. And the harmonies on this, to me, are one of the best harmonies on this album. So I had to pick this song. But is there anything that you could tell us about Return Post?
This is one of those that I was hinting about being an old, having its origins going way back. So far back, we're talking about the time when Vicki was in college.
Wow.
When she was in UCLA for a few years, she didn't graduate. She dropped out before she graduated, but she was an English major. And she wrote this in class. It was a song that was originally called Ain't Good Enough to Say Love.
Oh. And
she would pass notes back and forth with Amanda Hills, who was their bass player back when they were called the Muse. They were the Muse at this time. So Vicki, Debbie, and Amanda. And when the sessions for Different Light rolled around and they were scrambling for compositions, she dug up this old song. She took the first verse, kind of reworked it a little bit, called in Susanna, say, help me finish this off. And Return Post is the result.
Wow. With Vicki singing, I think these harmonies are just amazing, especially towards the end of the song. But little bluesy number. And Soraya, I had no idea about this coming out of an English class at UCLA. Your alma mater, right?
My alma mater. And see, now I shouldn't give my students the business when they're passing notes in class and goofing off, because maybe I have a budding songwriter that's going to give some gem to music lovers everywhere. So
excellent. So this is a lesson learned.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and listen to it, and we can talk about it afterwards if there's anything to talk about. So here's Return Post, the last song on side A.
Scratching them out almost immediately. Don't know what it's done to me. Oh, it's cold, it's wet, it's been raining all night. And there's a letter I've been trying to write. Something better waiting somewhere for me. One of them is paper and pen. Think how easy it is to conceive. And I know when we're together again, we'll be strangers for an hour, and then we'll have to figure out if this thing is real.
I always wondered how long that jam would have went on for if it hadn't faded out.
Right, right. I mean, it's neat because it goes into, I mean, there's a little beat change in there at that last minute, and it sounds almost kind of swampy, like Creedence Clearwater or something, maybe produced in the 80s, but that little swampy kind of bluesy thing.
That end jam is really hypnotic, you know, and you just kind of, and I agree with you, Eric. I'm like, okay, I wish someone would have just let the tape run a little longer. But to me, it just highlights, especially because, so we have, you know, the body of the song, and now I can't hear it any differently than thinking it was such an early draft that came back. Like, now I hear it a little differently, but that end jam to me really highlights how amazing these four musicians are. Because that guitar riff, okay, so like I'm here, I can pick up, that's Vicky. I can hear Vicky's playing, I hear Debbie, and then like today I just heard that bass line. It's really deep, funky bass line. I'm like, damn, this is it's just, they're so good. And then to me, it's the comment you made earlier, or the anecdote that you share, that, you know, they had been kind of dismissed as this, oh, that's that girl band from LA. And I'm like, man, these are four badass chicks. And oh, really great musicians. And I think that end jam to me is just like,
when they played this live, it was a lot heavier. And I think this was probably a result of David Kahn. But in this case, I do think I prefer this kind of restrained. And your comparison to CCR, I think is dead on. That never even occurred to me, but I think you're right on this case. That jam, I think he made the right move with this one. I think this is probably my favorite song on the album.
Wow!
Yeah,
wow! Yeah. I was going to ask that later on in the episode.
You heard it here first.
Yes.
Nice.
And you said that about the walking songs, "Walk Like an Egyptian Walking Down Your Street." Well, this doesn't have walking in the title, but we know that this was polished off during a walk. Sue and Vicky, when they were finishing up writing it, they were walking down Franklin Avenue in Hollywood. And it's like, okay, another one another one to submit.
That's amazing.
That is amazing. We're getting all kinds of tidbits here.
I'm loving all this, Eric. I think we got to have you on a couple more times. Get through different albums and hear different.
Hey, I'm here for you.
Bravo.
It's nice to have someone that knows what they're talking about, Soraya.
Yeah, Jeff and I don't.
So we flip the record, and it starts off with this song. So I got this picture disc. It's actually, I don't know if you can see it, but it's actually a single. Yeah, so the picture disc for If She Knew What She Wants. My buddy Frank Dragato from the JFJ Conspiracy gave me this little shaped picture disc. But side 2 starts If She Knew What She Wants, right, Soraya?
Yeah.
So this was also a song. I'm guessing, Eric, this came later when they were looking for extra songs, because it wasn't written by the band.
No, that one was written by Jules Shear, who was starting to really be noticed after he wrote All Through the Night, which was a hit for Cyndi Lauper.
Right.
Now, he had been around for a while. He was with the Polar Bears before that, but even predating that, he worked with a band called the Slow Children.
I love them. And Michael Steele, right?
Exactly. So Mickey knew Jules going way back. So we're talking 1978, 79. And they met up again. They were reunited at a rock and bowl event for charity.
Nice.
And they went to, they got together and they went back to his hotel room, Jules and the Bangles, and they wrote, again, that song for the Goonies soundtrack, I Got Nothing.
I love that song.
And that kind of got like the gears rolling. Well, what else does Jules have to offer, when they were looking for songs? And his Eternal Return album had just come out. And as great as it was, the second single, which was supposed to be if she knew, his version of it didn't get released. Unfortunately, they pulled the plug on it. But the Bangles knew of it, they heard it, and their management was actually pushing for it because they knew the song had potential. So they recorded it, and I think they did it brilliantly.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And that was a good choice for sure. Again, one of the singles from the records. Yeah, very good choice. And the band is amazing at doing cover versions of Hazy Shade as an example. So many great songs that they can take and just reinterpret and just add their harmonies into it. Just amazing. So up next, Let It Go, song written by all members of the band, sung by all members of the band. So very, very across the board with all members. And then we get to your next pick, right, Soraya?
Yes. So listeners of the show know that I will never turn down a good cover. And this album gave me, I think, one of my favorite covers that I've heard in a very, very long time. I'm a Big Star fan. So to hear the Bangles sing September Girls, I don't know. I think the arrangement is really good. I love Michael's vocals on this. And I feel like I should be calling her Mickey. I always want to be respectful, Michael Steele. But it's a great song. I think it really fits Michael's vocals really well. And I just like it. I like it a lot. I've heard it enough times live to just fall in love with it every time over again. And Eric, what can you share about this song and this choice?
Well, this song I think is probably the most representative of the Paisley family, because not only Michael, but Susanna and Vicky all love Big Star, but they all came together through a different path. Susanna was introduced to them back when she was in college herself with David Roback. And Vicky found out about them at the Spock Hotel when she was sharing the house with Steve Wynn.
Right.
He introduced her to Big Star, and Mickey, through her various travels, turned on to it. So they all said, hey, why not try this one? And Michael's like, I'm doing it. I'm all over that one. That one's mine. And she does a fairly faithful cover of it. I mean, it's not, it doesn't diverge much from the Big Star version, but it's got that little extra Bangles something that I think makes it special.
I agree. Let's listen to it. We'll talk about it a little more after. September Girls.
So long till we touched. I loved you, boy, never mind. I've been crying all the time. December boys got it bad. December boys got it bad. September girls, I don't know why. How can I
That
Just
song is amazing.
It's just such a earnest version of the song, I just like it so much.
Yeah, and we were talking about Michael Steele joining the band. Of course, she was on all over the place, but
Right.
hearing her in a lead vocal, and obviously a well-deserved spot. And I like your story, Eric, the anecdote about Michael saying, "This is mine."
It's mine.
And I think what makes this song even more special is that the royalties for the song is what got Alex Chilton back on his feet, because he had pretty much washed his hands of the music business after Big Star, and he was living pretty rough at the time. And before Different Light came out, he was playing with the Panther Burns at the Palace, and Susanna and Michael ran into him saying, "Hey, we just recorded your song. You want to hear it? We have it on a cassette out in the tour van." And his response was, "I just hope it makes me some money."
Wow.
So,
wow.
and then after it came out, he gave an interview where he said, they said, "Have you heard the Bangles version of September Girls? What do you think?" And he's like, "No comment."
Oh.
but when the Bangles found out that he was living so hard, sleeping on people's couches and no phone, no TV, they made sure that he got his royalties, because through all the red tape, it sometimes takes a little time for it to filter down. They just wrote him a check. I think it was for $17,000 right off the bat, sent it to him. And that's what got the ball rolling. And he got back on his feet and started making some music again, with making some albums, and got himself a house. And so that was his little rags to riches story. So I think he could be a little surly sometimes. You had to catch him on a good day, but I don't think he could deny that the Bangles and that 70s show helped a little later on. But yes, but the Bangles really helped him get back on his feet. So
wow. And I was very curious about their introduction to the band Big Star, because Big Star, a lot of hipsters know Big Star now, but back in the early 80s, even though they started off in the 70s, a lot of people didn't know about the band. So I would have assumed that they all came to it at the same time, the same way, but what you're telling us is they learned about the band Big Star from these different avenues. That's incredible to me. This is the first that I've heard that. So
yeah, it's kind of like the Velvet Underground, back in the 60s when they came out, no one really listened to them, no one knew who they were, but the hip people, the people that really had their pulse on the music scene, they said, "Oh, you gotta check these guys out." And it was through word of mouth, and that's how Big Star was too. People caught on to them after the fact, unfortunately.
Yeah.
but yeah, I think they're getting their due now. Yes.
Yeah. Everybody eventually came around. Yesterday, I went record shopping with my buddy, and we were going to hit as many record stores as we could hit up in LA at the same on the same day. So we ended up hitting up 4 record stores, and I picked this up yesterday, which is a tribute album called Big Star, Small World, and it's got some great acts on here, for at least people that I like. So Gin Blossoms, Afghan Wigs, Matthew Sweet, Juliana Hatfield, Whiskey Town, Teenage Fan Club, The Posies, of course, Wilco. So many bands that I really like doing covers. But one thing that I thought was interesting is there's no version of September Girls. I think because once the Bangles did the definitive cover version, nobody's going to touch it at that point. I mean, awesome. Yeah. So good pick, Soraya. Good pick. So then we go on down side 2, and we come to my second song, which was the B-side on this picture disc, and that's Angels Don't Fall in Love. And to me, this song it's an up-tempo song. I could actually hear this as more of the garage band version of the Bangles, minus the very clean, nice production that they do. But as an arrangement, as a style of song, in my mind, I actually hear this as the garage band version of the Bangles, which is my favorite era of the band. So that's one of the reasons why I love it. And it's, again, co-written by Vicky and Susanna Hoffs, like my first pick, and Vicky's singing it. But again, the harmonies are amazing. But Eric, do you know anything about this song?
I was going to bring that up too. I think this of all the different Light songs, this is the one that probably could have fit on All Over the Place. And in that regard, this song came out around that era. Well, It was starting to be composed around that era. An embryonic version of this song appeared during their live shows as early as December of '83.
Wow.
And yes, it was there's a tape of them playing at the Keystone in Palo Alto.
Okay.
It's not the same song yet, but there are elements in there that they revived when they put together Angels Don't Fall in Love. So again, this is another song that they were kicking down the road for a while till it finally came into place.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes perfect sense. I'm glad that you shed that light on that, because I didn't know that the song had been around for a few years at this point. But I say we give it a listen and let's rock out to Angels Don't Fall in Love.
I saw you today. Yeah, she's lovely. You're such a heavenly pair. You hope and you pray someday she'll take you all the way there. You should know better, darling. You should know. When push comes to shove, angels don't fall in love. You stand at the gate, hoping to gain admission. How long are you willing to wait? She won't give permission tonight. You should know better, darling. You should know. When push comes to shove, angels don't fall in love. No, no, no. You got your hiring, got your ambition. You think you're spiritual and on some mission. Well, I can see it when I look in your eyes. When you think of love, you think of compromise. It's no big disgrace, there's no loss of grace. The trouble is, there's always someone there to take your place. And the trouble is, you don't believe that it's true. When the sun goes down, there's something there for you. The trouble is, I see you missing so much. Why you knocking on the wrong door before some angels touch? You think she's everything you're dreaming of. The trouble is, those angels never fall in
speaking of Goonies soundtrack, those little xylophones or glockenspiel or bells or whatever that is at the end kind of reminds me of that. But I love the breakdown when Mickey plays that bass part and she does this little bendy part at the end before they start to build back up. But I love that song. This is one of my favorites from the album.
Apparently, the inspiration was born out of a Haley Mills film called "The Trouble with Angels."
Oh,
the song has nothing to do with that, but apparently the title was enough to launch a
there you go
composition.
I love that part where they go through that trouble is at the end.
The vocals are great. That you stand at the gate and then Susanna comes in and you wait and wait. That's like the Beatles. Getting better. It's like
right.
Paul's like better, and Paul, going to get much worse.
Nice comparison. I like that.
Very nice.
I think that kind of shows the best parts of the Peterson-Hoffs composition songwriting partnership.
I'll agree.
Nice.
I wish there would have been more of that when everything rolled around. But
agreed.
At least we have this.
Agreed. So Eric, you mentioned Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney's guitar player Rusty Anderson is credited on this album. I don't know where or when he plays. Do you happen to know?
It's not exactly sure. There's no real breakdown of who's playing what on Different Light. But there are some instances through interviews and reflections that we do know that there's someone else playing besides the Bangles. Going back to September Girls, that kind of backwards sounding bridge part, that's not Vicky. Now, I don't know if that's Rusty, but that's one of David Kahn's ringers filling in for that part.
Okay.
They say that Rusty did do the solo in Walk Like an Egyptian. I can't confirm that one, but
okay.
But he's there. It's just hard to pick out who's playing what in some things. So
interesting. Yeah, that would be interesting to learn definitively. That is, but something to ponder for sure. So next up, we come to Following, which is a total solo Michael Steele song, right? She wrote it herself and sings it, and amazing. Again, this really highlights what a talent Mickey is.
Yeah,
for sure. And apparently there's multiple UK versions of this, people. Just ask Eric. He's got.
Yeah, that's the one I was saying about how, there was a 12-inch and the special edition with the buttons and things like that. So, yeah.
Very nice.
Yes.
And then the album ends with Not Like You. Again, David Kahn sneaks in credit on this one.
Yeah. That's another thing that irked Debbie. It's like, why does he have credit on all my songs?
Interesting.
And apparently that one's written about her brother David, who had just came out of Red Cross as their drummer and was going through some hard times. And apparently that song's about him.
Wow. That I did not know. Wow. A connection with Red Cross, Soraya.
There you go. It had to happen.
Yeah. So before we end, Eric, can we talk a little bit about that friction between Debbie and David Kahn? Yes. So what have you learned in your discussions about that friction?
When I was writing, I did not want to create a villain. Because like I said, he was doing his job as instructed by the executives at Columbia. But what he put all the Bangles through, starting with All Over the Place, it was difficult to remain neutral. They talked about sometimes they would get so stressed out working with him that they would wind up in the bathroom throwing up.
Wow.
One of the best people I interviewed for my book was Margie Miz, who ran their fan club, Bangles and Mash, and was also Debbie's best friend since junior high school.
Wow.
So she had the inside track of a lot of things that went down. So she was invaluable to me. I owe her the world. And she would say, there was a little bench in the back lot behind the studio. And Debbie would just come out there and sit on the bench with her and just bawl her eyes out, stressed out beyond belief of working with David. And, by the third album, there was absolutely no way they could have worked with him again. That was it. But it's pretty well known that she was supposed to have sung "Walk Like an Egyptian," and she wasn't thrilled about that song to begin with.
Oh.
But she was supposed to sing the whole thing, and then she was supposed to sing the second verse, and then David said, "You don't seem very into this." It's like, well, I don't particularly like this song. Oh, it's going to be a hit. Don't you want to sing a hit? It's like, I'd rather sing something I like. So then he started, auditioning the other Bangles. And eventually she was just squeezed out. And then she didn't even play drums on it. So when that hit and launched them into the stratosphere, it was a very empty success for Debbie.
Wow. Yeah, I bet there's a lot of mixed feelings that goes along with that, right?
Yeah.
Yes. But she always looks like she's having fun nowadays the last couple times I've seen them play it where she jumps off the drum kit. She comes up.
Yes. Now with Michael gone, she now gets to sing that second verse.
it's
so everything comes around. Yep.
Yep. All right. One last thing I wanted to mention in the credits, we see that credited as threads for their outfits is Jenny Shore and Tony Riviera, and we had Jenny on our show, and I think you spoke with her too, Eric,
oh yes.
A bit. So Jenny was definitely a part of the band as their stylist, so she gets credit on this album for threads. So there
are several people in those credits that I talked to doing research for my work too. So yeah.
Any that were of interest? I don't want you to tell too much about the book, because I want all of our listeners to get this book. As you can tell, Eric is full of information. And
my gosh,
for those like me who like that kind of stuff, this book is going to be amazing. I can't wait, Eric. I can't wait. So.
Well, I'll just say that I spoke, as I mentioned, Mike Gormley. I spoke to their personal manager, Pam Turboff, who helped them like through the day-to-day things. I talked to some roadies and to some equipment men, and a whole slew of friends and various people on the periphery.
I bet those roadies have some good stories, Eric.
Oh yeah.
It's amazing. Not only for the success, but going back to the Paisley Underground heyday, 82, 83, it was the biggest challenge of writing this book was not to create a multi-volume tome about all the Paisley bands, because they are so interconnected. It was very hard to keep it on track as a Bangles book, because everybody was helping everybody out, gigging with the 3 o'clock or living with Steve Wynn, and the Rain Parade and the Long Riders, and it's so interconnected. And I think that's one of the biggest success stories of my work, is I really do demonstrate how much of a family that was. As some of your interviews have said, the Paisley Underground isn't a sound. It was a collection of personalities that really loved and respected each other, and those friendships still exist. And I think that's amazing. I think that's the best story of this whole era of music.
Amazing. Soraya, I think we just got a soundbite right there.
I'm sorry, that's it. I think we better just
yeah.
But I do, Eric, want to ask, so for our listeners who perhaps want to find you or make sure that they get a copy of this book, how can they find you on social media?
Right now, I am one of the moderators on a Bangles Facebook group. The the Bangles Collective, which I do pride along with my fellow mods that we are different than other Facebook groups. We are not fanboys, plotzing in our pants over pictures of Susanna in the all-nighter or something like that. We show respect. We also are very oriented towards history and keeping the facts straight.
Yeah.
You can catch me on there. Now, like I said, pretty soon, as soon as the printers start rolling, I will have links and a website for my book popping up. So very, very soon. You guys will be the first to hear about it.
Great.
And just keep your eyes peeled. Pretty soon, I'll be out there. Yeah.
Very exciting. And we'll definitely share that.
Oh,
Absolutely. We'll share the link. Today has been super informative. Eric,
Yeah.
we can't thank you enough just for coming on and helping us really fleshing out this album for us. And now I'm like, now I want to go back and listen to September Girls, because now I'm all angry that it's somebody else possibly and not Vicky, but let me just hold her in my heart. I just think she's amazing. But this has been super informative. We can't wait to have you back on again. Thank you once more for taking the time out and joining us.
Much. Yes, thank you, both of you, very much. And this show, as I said, this show has helped me a lot. I've gotten bits of info from many of your interviews that led me down to other paths, and it's helped a lot. So
Good.
you were one of the first ones when I started this. I don't know how I found you at first, but you were there, and you were with me the whole ride. So that's why you guys get a special thank you in the book there.
Will we do?
Oh yes, absolutely. Yes, you do.
So like the Paisley Underground, we're a group of friends connected by a common love.
That's
who
right.
respect one another and support one another.
That's right.
Yes, indeed. All right. Thank you, Eric. We really appreciate it.
You bet, guys. Anytime. Thank you.
Okay. And we'll see you soon, hopefully in the next 6 to 8 weeks.
If the gods smile down upon me, it should be about that time. Yes, thank you.
Let's hope so. All right, Eric.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Catch you on the flip side. Bye-bye.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Is your mind blown?
Yes.
Mine is.
Yeah, absolutely, Soraya.
Shoot, man. That's wild. That he gave us so much info.
Yeah, and Soraya, I believe I'm almost certain that you're also a member of the Facebook group that Eric mentioned, and I really appreciate. I am in several Bangles Facebook groups, and a lot of them are, unfortunately, as Eric described, a lot of photos of the band, and it's more about how the band looks. But if you're on this page, Eric's posts are amazing, and he goes into detail. He had this series where he went through every song that they've ever recorded, and some that they weren't recorded. So you have the one post about each song, and he goes into detail about some of these songs and just paragraphs. So this makes me really excited for this book because I'm a nerd about the music, right? I want to know about the music, and learning that Eric is focusing on this pre-Manic Monday era of the band. That's my era of the band that I really love.
It's that buildup of the Bangles, and going through that garage phase, and the heavy club dates, so many different places. I'm really, really intrigued. I really, really want to read the rest of it.
Yes.
But going back to the album that we picked today, my mind's pretty blown by some of the stuff that he shared with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a deeper appreciation after speaking to Eric.
Yeah, I mean, really, he shared some really interesting stuff today.
Yeah, he really put into perspective for me the production part of this, because that's something that I have a little bit of an issue with, is the production, because it's for my style, it's a little bit clean. You know, I like the rougher lo-fi stuff, garagey. And it was something that I learned in our discussions early on with this podcast, where I think you highlighted that it had to do with the grittiness is something that I think you mentioned when we first started talking or first started doing our podcast. And that really struck a note with me, because I could never like define what it is I like about music. And I do like a little bit of grittiness in my music. And you don't hear a lot of that on this album, but Eric was very clear about the direction that the producer had, David Kahn, from his bosses to make this band happen, to make them more commercial. And Eric is absolutely right. David Kahn did his job, and he did a great job of it, because the band just blew up with this.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, you have to give David Kahn credit for doing what he was paid to do.
I mean, you can't deny what this album did, right?
No, it's undeniable.
You just can't deny it. But I think Eric presents this really interesting additional story, and that is this kind of push-pull between perhaps what the label wanted and what the band was looking for. And, you know, and then Eric said, you know, by the third album, it became really clear that they couldn't continue to work with him, because, you know, it was just a tense environment. And so, you know, it's just one of those things that's interesting, is like, how does a band, you know, I think everyone who has a band that they love, they go, oh, you know, I knew him when. And then when they see this meteoric rise, they go, the music's not that good anymore. Or like, you know, people always find something to pick apart.
Yeah.
And so it's always curious to hear that behind the scenes story of what are the building blocks to that.
Absolutely.
And then when you reach that, how do you maintain it? Right. And then how does the vision, the sound, everything, the dynamic of the band change once you're there? And I think we've followed so many bands where it's been this, you know, up, down. And, you know, it's just an interesting story, no matter how you slice it. It is an interesting story.
This album alone could make a movie. From what I'm hearing from Eric and what went on behind the scenes, I mean, just what the band was before this and this period of time. I mean, that story is just incredible.
So much. There's a lot to process.
Yeah.
I will say, I now want to see the 3 different versions of Following.
I know.
Of that single. I do want to find a 12-inch single of Lewis and Clark. I think we're going to have to ask Lewis if he has any in his archive. But whoa, that's pretty interesting. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Jeff, this was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun, Soraya.
Even though we didn't pick Manic Monday. It was fun.
Yeah.
Oh my God, mi gente, a groovear.
Groove on, Paisley people.
Think I'm crazy or something, always following you around. You say I'm a hopeless case, running obsession into the ground. You call me a loser, you call me a shadow and fool. You look over your shoulder and you say I'm haunting you. So why do you call me? Why do you look for me? And why do your eyes follow me the way they do? You hold me responsible, yes, so I stand accused, causing all the trouble after high school. Between him and you, yeah, you call me a loser, you call me a shadow and fool, but I was a good girl, yeah, till you taught me what it means to be true. Why do you call me? Why do you